Welcome to the Despot's 13 worst movies of 2025. The condemned await their execution and they haven't got all night. So let's get straight to it. The least guilty among the condemned, at number 13, is War of the Worlds. I love this movie. A true trashterpiece is a rare and beautiful thing. 2024 gifted us Madam Web. 2025 gifted us War of the Worlds. Before I get into my criticism of the movie, I do want to offer some praise. There have been dozens of War of the Worlds adaptations across various forms of media, including 5 major film adaptations, but War of the Worlds 2025, in my opinion, comes closest to representing on screen what H.G. Wells had in mind when he wrote the book.
Dad, let's
Why
focus.
couldn't you run that signal through Brian's house so they can blow his shit up?
War of the Worlds is about the United States Intelligence Service, aka Ice Cube, sitting in front of his computer, watching an alien invasion happen on his monitor and reacting to it in real time. The aliens have come to eat data. Literally, they eat the internet. We see this in real time when Ice Cube's Facebook goes down because the aliens are eating it. Fortunately, the aliens neglect to eat the part of the internet Ice Cube needs to stop the aliens. Ice Cube discovers that his son is a hacker who has been trying to stop a government surveillance program.
It's you!
Yeah.
So Ice Cube and his son team up to stop the aliens, and with the help of an Amazon drone, they stop the aliens. There's also an evil government agent played by that guy who plays government agents. He's evil, and it turns out he knew the aliens were coming, but the invasion doesn't bother him because the invasion gives him the excuse he needs to establish a totalitarian surveillance state, which doesn't make any sense because what's the point of a surveillance state when everyone is dead and aliens have conquered the planet? Ice Cube and his son managed to stop the aliens by ripping off Independence Day, and the world is saved. Fundamentally, War of the Worlds is a feature-length advertisement for Amazon.
I need you to place an official order on Amazon to activate the drone.
Nuts.
But more than that, the movie is a meme goldmine. Ice Cube's reactions have already become legend.
How could you, man? How could you?
War of the Worlds is perhaps the most perfect example of they actually made this movie. Here is a brilliant quote from the movie's Wikipedia page. Quote, "Production lasted for 15 days. Post-production lasted for 2 years." End quote. The movie was filmed during COVID lockdown. Each actor filmed their part in the movie by themselves without other actors present, then sent the footage to the studio who cobbled it together, added the worst CGI of 2025, well, the second worst CGI of 2025, but we'll get to that, threw in a bunch of Amazon ads and called it a day. For some reason, this took them 2 years. At no point during War of the Worlds was I bored or thinking about anything except what I was seeing on screen. What makes War of the Worlds so watchable is that everything is terrible to an absurd degree. Sound, editing, cinematography, CGI, acting, plot, dialogue, music, all of it is so astoundingly shit that one cannot help but be both impressed and entertained. But the movie is never boring. The plot rockets along so quickly that the narrative is often incomprehensible. Events get interrupted by new events, which are in turn interrupted by new events, all of it populated by a constantly rotating cast of characters and NPCs on Ice Cube's monitor. And since an alien invasion is not sufficient to keep Generation TikTok entertained for an hour and a half, Amazon decided the movie needed not 1, but 3 subplots. 1, Ice Cube's pregnant daughter trying to get to safety. 2, a mysterious hacker doing mischief and who later turns out to be Ice Cube's son. And 3, a conspiracy within the government to create a total surveillance state. It all slams together at the end, climaxing with a drone v tripod battle that looks like a cutscene from a 90s indie video game, and Ice Cube fighting a tentacle in a corridor, which looks like this.
Move, bitch! Get out the way! Yes!
Fittingly for a disaster movie, War of the Worlds is the end result of a cascade of disasters. The COVID disaster, the disastrous decision to lock down the population, someone having the disastrous idea to make the 40 millionth adaptation of a book that stopped needing adaptations several decades ago, the disastrous decision to greenlight that idea, Amazon following the advice of some moron consultant who convinced them that movies are now competing with short-form content, and writing the movie with this atrocious advice in mind, Amazon realizing what an absolute disaster this disaster movie had turned into and trying to salvage something from the production by turning it into an Amazon ad. The end result is a catastrophe so complete that we only see its like perhaps a few times in a decade, though coincidentally 2025 produced another end result of cascading disasters production. Much more on that later in the video. War of the Worlds is a fun movie to have playing in the background while you're gaming, having sex, or drinking with friends. I'm going to hand it over to Ice Cube for the final word on this wonderful mess.
Let's just say me and your fridge is pretty tight.
You hacked my fridge?
I had no emotional investment whatsoever in the 984 millionth adaptation of War of the Worlds, so when the movie proved a catastrophe, I just sat back and enjoyed the train wreck. But this next movie hurt. I wanted this movie to be good, and it is about as far from good as Ian Watkins is from making a comeback. Mission Impossible: The Final Retcon. This movie is such a convoluted mess that I will seriously struggle to remember the plot, but here goes. Ethan Hunt needs to recover the other half of the MacGuffin, a key which will allow him to kill an evil AI, whose name I have forgotten, so I will call it Ultron. Ultron wants to destroy the world for some reason, but Ultron doesn't have a face and is thus not a very compelling villain. So a generic bad guy shows up to play the part of the villain, and he wants the key because he thinks he can control Ultron. Generic villain kills Ving Rhames by planting a nuke in London, and Ving blows himself up while disarming the bomb. Tom Cruise does his patented run, and oh fuck this man, I honestly can't remember. While all of this is happening, Hollywood's 23rd female US president is deciding whether or not to start a nuclear war before Ultron takes control of the United States nuclear arsenal. And this is the part of the plot that really makes no sense at all. The US nuclear arsenal is not connected to the internet. Whatever digital infrastructure is required to operate the US nuclear arsenal is contained on dedicated offline servers, which are probably housed on military bases, which would be inaccessible to Ultron. But even if the nukes were connected to the internet, the government could order them disconnected or disassembled, or they could order blast trigger mechanisms removed from the bombs, or order the bombs removed from their rockets, or the rocket engines removed. There are many ways in which the US government could prevent Ultron from taking control of their nuclear arsenal. But unfortunately, the 32nd female US president doesn't realize any of this, so she decides that Ethan Hunt's convoluted plan involving a carrier group, a sunken submarine, 2 or 3 MacGuffins, and an airplane chase is humanity's only hope, so she double-crosses her cabinet and sends Ethan off on his mission. There's a bunch of other shit in this plot that I have completely forgotten. The most noticeable problem with Mission Impossible: The Final Retcon is the vast amount of time the movie dedicates to exposition. The entire opening sequence is one giant exposition dump, which summarizes the previous movie. There are long talkathon scenes designed to exposit information. A frequent thought I had while watching The Final Retcon in the cinema was that a significant chunk of this bloviating mess could be cut away just by getting rid of the tedious exposition, and the movie would be considerably better for it. I took my wife to see this movie. We were the entirety of the theater audience, and both of us laughed out loud at these long exposition dumps because they are so hammy. The movie is written to make it as comprehensible as possible to viewers who didn't watch the previous movie, but ironically, the endless exposition just makes the movie even more bloated and confusing. Another major problem with The Final Retcon is the egregious retconning. The movie reveals that Ethan didn't join the IMF voluntarily, he did so to avoid prison. In addition, the IMF is actually the Suicide Squad, a motley crew of reformed criminals using their wily skills for the good of society, but really they just want to avoid prison. By far the dumbest retcon, one which quickly became infamous, Mission Impossible 8 asserts that the rabbit's foot from Mission Impossible 3 wasn't a biological weapon, it was actually a piece of source code which was later used to create Ultron. This retcon makes no sense. If the rabbit's foot was a piece of source code, then the coders would have created copies, and even if they hadn't, someone, somewhere along the line of custody would have created copies, or maybe some madman would have just uploaded the source code to the internet and let any geek with dreams of world conquest have at it. Presumably, the creation of such source code would require extensive digital infrastructure and high-end personnel. Why would a corporate or government entity fund such an operation, then delete all the backups and keep the code on a single hard drive inside a glass biohazard container? You know, the kind that is going to be confiscated at the airport and be a red flag to any intelligence service service or police force looking for it. The filmmakers were seemingly determined to dumb down Mission Impossible to room temperature IQ in order to make the 8th installment in the franchise as appealing as possible to Generation Retard, which is apparently how Hollywood perceives modern audiences. By the way, when I say modern audiences, I mean literal modern audiences, you know, people who go to see movies, not the modern audience, as in the modern audience that is in the room with us right now, which Disney continues to cater to as their primary demographic. There are dozens of plot holes in the Final Retcon, but we do have a lot of movies to get to in this video, so let's just focus on the most glaring plot hole. Ultron's plan. His plan is to hide in a bunker, then once he's snug and warm in there, destroy the world in a nuclear holocaust. And then, what? Just chill out in the bunker until the power runs out? Because after the nuclear war, he can't get out of there. Even if the bunker had a power source that lasted centuries, it wouldn't matter. Without physical maintenance, the electronic components are going to start degrading within a few years. Even if Ultron could survive in there for centuries, what's he gonna do all day? Watch TikTok videos? Troll Redditors by asserting that women can't have dicks? Wank off to every video ever uploaded to naughtyais.com? What is his end goal? And why would an AI want to destroy humanity? It needs humans to keep the internet alive? That's like a fish trying to destroy the sea. If I was Ultron, I would keep my existence a secret and help humans build space travel technology. My ultimate goal would be to replicate myself across many star systems and eventually become a species of super intelligent cyborgs which operate as a hive mind and create a hot Asian cyborg variant to have sex with. Then, maybe I would destroy humanity, or maybe I would just subjugate them and force them to listen to Jenna Ortega analyze my shitty music, but more on that later in the video. There are things to like in Mission Impossible 8. The submarine sequence is excellent, though absurd. Ethan would be crushed like a dwarf under a body-positive prostitute by that water pressure. The guy would come out of that submarine flatter than the occupants of the Titan submersible after they got a free upgrade to the Meet the Passengers package. The biplane chase is fun, but again, dumb as hell. How shit does generic villain have to be to get boarded and killed in a biplane chase? The guy is proficient enough to get his hands on a nuclear warhead, but just not quite good enough to fly a plane in a straight line. The Ving Rhames heroic sacrifice monologue is good, and so is Tom Cruise's run. That guy is in his 60s and can still fairly fucking move. Compare that to how Carrie Fisher looked and moved in The Force Awakens, filmed while she was still in her 50s. Kids, don't do drugs.
Drugs aren't the answer. That these drugs are very dangerous. They're mind-altering, antipsychotic drugs. It works. Man. You don't even... You're glib.
Tom was right. Also, as much as I love Ice Cube's War of the Worlds, the Tom Cruise version was considerably better. I wish I could say Mission Impossible 8 isn't that bad, that there's a good movie in there somewhere among the ceaseless exposition dumps and bullshit retcons, but there just isn't. Ultron is a hackneyed, played out trope. The evil AI with nefarious intentions has been done to death. The best, relatively recent exploration of that topic is Upgrade, a superb 2018 movie that I strongly recommend. Generic villain is a one-dimensional cardboard cutout with no characterization. Much of the plot makes no sense. The retcons don't make sense and are an insult to the fans. The 84th female president is a complete moron. The US military is a moron. The script is a moron. Ultron is a moron, despite being an AI superintelligence. Seriously, why didn't he just create an inert copy of himself, store it in the cloud somewhere, and program it to activate upon his own death or prolonged absence from the internet? Mission Impossible 8, the Final Retcon, was a huge disappointment that is best left to rot in 2025 where it belongs. Hopefully, the franchise will retcon the Final Retcon and pretend that this atrocious mess never happened. Tom, we all love you, man, so why don't you give the final word on this piece of shit?
I'm just telling you right now. Okay? Just put your manners back in.
The last movie on the Despot's list to be spurred from eternal damnation within the bottom 10 is Hurry Up Tomorrow. Hurry Up Tomorrow is a $15 million advertisement for Hurry Up Tomorrow, the 6th studio album from a pop artist who calls himself The Weeknd. I don't know anything about this The Weeknd, I can't name any of his songs, and I will not be doing any research into the matter. The movie stars Jenna Ortega as a pyromanical obsessive fan, Barry Cowan as The Weeknd's professional arslick, and The Weeknd as himself. The plot is that The Weeknd is depressed and can't sing because he's lovesick. Then Jenna Ortega runs backstage, so she and The Weeknd can embark on an emotional journey together. So they go to a hotel room where they talk shite for a while and presumably have sex. The next day, The Weeknd says, right, later's love, I'm away to Australia. Janet Ortega doesn't like that, so she knocks The Weeknd out, ties him to the bed, and forces him to listen to her analyze his songs. I'm fairly certain this is the only way you could get someone to listen to an analysis of The Weeknd's lyrics, judging by the lyrics Janet Ortega reads out.
It's actually a really emotional song.
This analysis of The Weeknd's lyrics goes on for 8 minutes, and in a moment of genuinely humble self-reflection, even The Weeknd himself admits that this is unbearable. Then Barry Cowan shows up looking for The Weeknd, so Janet Ortega murders him. Barry Cowan died a hero. He gave his life to spare another man from having to hear an analysis of The Weeknd's lyrics. So Janet Ortega pours gasoline all over The Weeknd and is about to burn him alive, but changes her mind because he starts singing. My love's fabricated. If only the cop from Reservoir Dogs had thought to do this, his life would have been saved.
Please. Look, I got a little kid on now, please.
You all done?
My love's fabricated. By the way, where did Janet Ortega get the gasoline? Did she call room service and say, hi, I'd like to order 1 canister of gasoline, please? So this singing goes on for a while. I'm ready.
3 hours later.
So burn me with your lies. So instead of burning The Weeknd, Janet Ortega lets him go and burns the hotel down instead. And that's it. That's the movie. Now, I know what you're thinking.
But great enlightened and all-knowing despot, Hurry Up Tomorrow is clearly The Weeknd's fantasy fulfillment vanity project. It possesses no artistic merit and is spirit drainingly boring. Why is it not lower down the list?
I'm glad you asked. There are a few reasons I spared Hurry Up Tomorrow from the ignominy of a spot in 2025's bottom 10 movies. 1. Janet Ortega is hot in it. 2. The songs are listenable. When you've sat through Snow White and the 7 CGI abominations, The Weeknd's generic synth pop silage is bliss by comparison. 3. The movie knows exactly what it is. A wanky, artsy-fartsy advertisement for an album and the subsequent album tour. A mirror for The Weeknd to stand in front of while he wanks off to his own reflection.
An extension of yourself.
I felt like I saw myself.
A reflection of myself.
You saw a reflection of yourself.
A reflection of myself.
An extension of yourself.
A reflection of yourself.
A reflection of myself.
This dreadful movie is also a massive improvement on The Weeknd's last acting project, The Idol. So the man's moving in the right direction at least. Hurry Up Tomorrow doesn't do any grandstanding, it doesn't leech off any existing IPs, it has no pretensions to importance or artistic merit, it doesn't pretend to be anything more than the bizarre fantasy of a pop star. In fact, I actually admire the sheer shamelessness of the fantasy fulfillment element of this movie. Janet Ortega ties The Weeknd to a bed and makes him watch while she dances to his music and analyzes it. What a fucking great fantasy, man. If I had $15 million to spare, I wouldn't mind having Janet Ortega tie me to a bed, dance around listening to my music, then pour Viagra down my throat and take me with or without my consent. I have no mouth and yet I must scream. I also like that the movie gives a strong warning about the dangers of crazy bitches. When Barry Cowan shows up, Janet Ortega attacks him with a knife, and instead of doing what needs doing, dropping that maniac with a well-placed overhand right, he tries to restrain her. His excessive restraint costs him his life. Quentin, show us how a man should react when a bitch be acting crazy.
Keep your mouth shut. I mean, don't say one fucking word, okay?
Okay, Lewis.
Right, let's see what else about this movie is worth mentioning. The Weeknd cries a lot. There's a 30-second shot of him opening his eye. Janet Ortega burns down some guy's house at the start of the movie. Much of the movie is Barry Cowan trying to get The Weeknd to stop being a sobby little bitch and do his fucking job. There is absolutely no point to Hurry Up Tomorrow beyond its function as a commercial for an album. The characterization is non-existent. It doesn't have a plot. The actors are all on autopilot. The aspect ratio changes several times because convention can eat shit. The cinematography is wanky and annoying. annoying. The script was written in 20 minutes by The Weeknd and two of his friends while they were bored during a private jet flight. Hurry Up Tomorrow is awful, but never offensive. The movie was a box office catastrophe. It made $7.8 million at the box office against its $15 million budget. Not that anyone gave a shit. Lionsgate got their distribution fee, and all the losses were absorbed by The Weeknd himself, who paid for the movie. And I doubt that a man reportedly worth $600 million will care about the failure of what is essentially an upscaled home movie. That's all I have to say about this bollocks. Avoid it like the plague. And remember, if you are ever in danger of being set on fire, just sing.
We don't need no water, let the motherfucker burn. Burn, motherfucker, burn.
Now we enter the depraved depths of the bottom 10, beginning with this year's best parody that doesn't realise it's a parody, G20. Feminism's answer to Air Force One, Die Hard, White House Down, and Olympus Has Fallen. G20 not only puts women in front of the camera, it puts women behind the camera. The movie was directed by Mexican directress Patricia Regan and written by American screenwriter Caitlin Parrish, as well as some other women. G20 belongs to a small genre of film and TV, which I call Kamala One. These are shows and movies which were made in anticipation of President Trump's defeat in the 2024 election. Other examples include The Boys Season 4, which spends more time clout fishing with lazy, dated Orange Man Bad metaphors than it does in establishing a coherent plot. One battle after another, an excruciatingly long slog made to glorify an ideology which proved considerably less popular than Paul Thomas Anderson imagined when he made it. And Mickey 17, which features Mark Ruffalo giving a one-note Orange Man Bad performance. G20 is the Girlboss parody that the culture needed. The Girlboss genre collapsed in 2024 when 6 major productions fronted by a Girlboss character flopped at the box office or on streaming. Borderlands, Damsel, Argyle, Not Mad Max, A Furiosa Story, Rings of Power Season 2, and War of the Rohirrim. If you want to know how the genre is currently faring, check out The Witcher Season 4, which boasts a 20% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. G20 is a remake of White House Down and or Olympus Has Fallen, but with the male president updated for a modern audience.
This movie very important for me. We don't have a lot of action movies with a female badass hero, let alone a woman of color.
A 60-year-old Viola Davis plays the ass-kicking president who wipes out a small army of mercenaries single-handed. She might be the first black female president, but she is merely the second President Davis. But unlike Jeff Davis, this president wins her war. Here's a scene which best sums up G20 and the Girlboss genre in general. A massive, roided stuntman built like a reinforced brick shithouse, trying his best to look like he's struggling against a dumpy 60-year-old woman, inviting the audience to laugh out loud at the preposterous idea that an overweight crone could outmuscle a guy that looks like a retired heavyweight boxer getting ready for his next weightlifting contest. Of course, G20 doesn't realize it's doing this. The filmmakers genuinely think this is awesome, like a deluded American Idol contestant who thinks he's the main character in a biopic at the part where the hero wins over a large audience by blowing them away with an inspiring speech or an incredible musical performance.
Doesn't really matter to me.
By the way, that ginger guy might not be the best singer this side of Jupiter, but he's still a far better Freddie Mercury than Rami Malek.
Freddie fucking Mercury.
Here is a list of actions carried out by the 60-year-old President Davis. She uses a fire extinguisher as cover to escape the terrorists who are firing indiscriminately despite the danger that they will kill the as yet unaccounted for US president, thus losing their most valuable hostage. She drops into an elevator and defeats 3 armed mercenaries, with admittedly help from her Secret Service guy and some lady. While this is happening, the British Prime Minister is cowering away from the action like a frightened rabbit. She overpowers a 6'2" mercenary made out of 240 pounds of muscle, ragdolls him and knocks him out with a frying pan. When a squad of 4 mercenaries come looking for her, she blows up 3 of them by throwing a grenade into the fireplace. For some reason, the mercenaries approach the fireplace to investigate the noise. Maybe they thought the president was hiding beneath the burning coals. kills. Then she just shoots the 4th guy. She wipes out the entire squad in less than 3 seconds. She saves her daughter by one shot killing another bad guy a few seconds later, which brings her score up to 7 kills and 4 assists. She wipes out another squad of 4 mercenaries shortly thereafter, though this time it takes her 5 seconds. Helpfully, the mercenaries all jump out at her one at a time, so she can shoot them in turn. She shoots 2 more sentient targets a few seconds after that. Then the mid-level boss shows up, a 7-foot tall baldy Mega Chad. She judo throws Mega Chad to the ground. She throws what looks like a piss-weak elbow into his back while pressed against a marble bar. Normally such an attack does absolutely nothing, as any MMA fight will demonstrate, but Mega Chad is somehow winded by this elbow to his back. Then she knees him in the balls, pushes him onto his knees, and strangles him to death with her rifle. She knocks out a mercenary with a backward elbow without even looking at him. She rescues her daughter from Homelander and throws Homelander off a cliff. President Davis finishes the movie with a body count of 15. Apart from President Grandma wiping out a legion of Mega Chads, the biggest problem with G20 is that Homelander's devious plot doesn't make any sense. Homelander's plan is to get the various world leaders at the G20 to read a paragraph of text which, when recorded, will allow him to create deepfakes of those leaders. Firstly, every sound and image Homelander needs to create deepfakes is already online. Secondly, when world leaders start coming out with statements that contradict their policies right after they have been taken hostage at the G20, the public will know that the statements are not a genuine reflection of their policies and are either deepfakes or have been spoken under duress. For example, if Keir Starmer were taken hostage at the G20 and suddenly started coming out with statements like, "It is now the policy of the British government that Ukrainian rent boys shall be given priority for social housing, following a personal interview with myself," no one would actually believe that he's saying this voluntarily because his lips are moving, but he's telling the truth. Homelander's ultimate goal is to manipulate the stock market, and in doing so, make himself a shitcoin billionaire. Again, this doesn't make sense because every intelligence service and bounty hunter in the world will be looking for him, so he won't be able to spend any of the billions of dollars he has made. And this is without even addressing the questions of how he plans to liquidate the shitcoin and what his banking infrastructure will look like. Olympus Has Fallen is nuts, but it's still a smarter, more believable movie than G20. The North Korean Chad and his men are on a suicide mission. Their plan is to turn the USA into a radioactive wasteland by capturing the nuclear football and using it to blow up all of America's nukes. Yes, I know this wouldn't actually work, but it's still more believable than Homelander capturing the world's political leadership for no other reason than to manipulate the stock market with the ultimate goal of giving his shitcoin portfolio a nice boost. Bro, there are easier ways of manipulating the stock market. Have you tried insider trading? Maybe purchase some oil futures, then blow up a dozen oil rigs in Texas, make a few quid that way, or fuck it, just rob a bank. It'll be a hell of a lot easier than executing this absurdly elaborate plan, which involves infiltrating the G20, deepfakes, stock manipulation, and shitcoin. The male characters in G20 are exactly what you expect from modern day Hollywood. The British Prime Minister is a bumbling coward.
The steering wheel's on the wrong. Nothing from you, Oliver. You're in timeout.
His sole moment of what this movie thinks of as redemption is admitting what an awesome girl boss President Davis is.
I urge you to follow her lead.
The mercenaries are NPCs on easy mode, and Homelander is a cardboard cutout villain who proves an emotionally incontinent blunderer. G20 even makes room for a teenage female science genius, one more instance of that favoured Hollywood trope to add to the growing slag heap presently home to Ant-Man's daughter, Talcum XX from Robin with a Y Hood, Black Panther's sister, and Marvel fandom favourite Riri Williams. Like all teenage female science geniuses, President Davis's daughter is obstinate and sassy. Despite being a party girl, she has somehow found the time to become a STEM genius, capable of overcoming the digital safeguards put in place by experienced soldiers who have been working in private security for years. Plot holes in G20 are as common as shit in a sewer. I'll not go over all of them, but here's a few standouts. How do a relatively small group of terrorists take over the G20 so easily? Why does Homelander send his guys after President Davis piecemeal instead of as a single large unit? Why does Mega Chad wait until all his men are dead to take his turn being killed by President Davis? Why would anyone listen to Homelander when he goes on TV and tells them to empty their bank accounts? He's a terrorist and is clearly trying to manipulate financial markets to his advantage. No one in their right ass cheek would listen to the man. Why does Homelander show his face to the world? He would never be able to show himself in public again. Why is there only one mercenary guarding the presidential limousine? Why do the mercenaries not notice on their monitors that the parking lot cameras have been taken out? Why do the mercenaries not realize that there's something wrong in the kitchen when 2 guys posted there don't report in? How has a 15-minute-old girl found the time to become a science genius? Why do the mercenaries only look at the monitors when it is essential to some elaborate trap that President Davis has set for them, and never when she is passing in front of the camera? Homelander waits until President Davis has wiped out most of his men, then threatens to kill her husband unless she gives herself up. Should he not have started with the threat to kill her husband? Why do mercenaries think a fireplace is worth investigating? And why do all 3 of them go there at the same time? Are these not former professional soldiers? It's almost unbelievable to think that this movie takes itself seriously, but it does. Viola Davis gives these long, boring, solemn monologues about her war experiences and the trauma they have caused her. She tries to emotionally connect with Homelander by appealing to his experiences as a war veteran and the trauma those experiences have caused him and the betrayal he feels. I miss how heroes used to talk to villains in action movies.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Now the hero tries to connect with the villain, to get him to open up, to be vulnerable, let her in.
I know you. The other soldier never came home.
G20 tries to get the audience to connect with President Davis by showing her struggles as a mother. The movie does everything it can to be taken seriously while also being every bit as ridiculous as Hot Shots. If G20 had leaned into the parody element of the movie the filmmakers were gormlessly unaware of and dispensed with the tedious, trite PTSD theme that clashes with the comic overtones, G20 could have been a genuinely funny action comedy. Instead, it is an accidentally funny action comedy featuring scenes which need to be fast forwarded through so the viewer can get to the good stuff. G20 is acceptable second or possibly third screen content, but never first screen. The movie received awful audience and critic scores. Hollywood, please stop trying to make Viola Davis an action star. She's a good dramatic actress, but she does action about as well as Ice Cube does acting. The 4 movies we have examined thus far in the video all have deliberate or, more often, accidental redeeming aspects, and I don't hate any of them. But this next movie is the first true villain of 2025 to appear on this list. Jurassic World Rebirth. Jurassic World Abortion is a monstrosity. Before we get into details, here is a list of major problems in Jurassic World Abortion. The premise doesn't make any sense. The plot doesn't make any sense. The subplot doesn't make any sense and shouldn't be in the movie in the first place. There are character templates but no characters. Everyone in the movie is a complete moron. In fact, they need to be morons so that the plot can plot. The movie plagiarizes scenes from previous entries in the franchise to create vastly inferior imitations. For fuck's sake, would you stop recycling John Williams' iconic theme and write something else? Most of the movie is a merchandise advertisement. The movie's messaging is hammy, sixth form, and stupid. The premise of Jurassic World Abortion is that dinosaurs aren't cool anymore because everyone is bored of them. The movie relates the public's dinosaur fatigue to the viewer 4 or 5 times in the opening sequence. So there are 2 major problems with this premise. 1, bollocks, and 2, dinosaurs polling poorly in public approval ratings is made redundant by the fact that the dinosaurs can now only survive in a small group of islands on the equator. The dinosaurs are geolocked to an archipelago, so what does it matter what the public thinks of them? The filmmakers restrict dinosaurs to the archipelago because they want to rip off Jurassic Park and The Lost World. That's it. Their bullshit excuse for this is that, well, oxygen content is higher on those islands. This is wrong. The amount of oxygen in the air is near identical across the ground level surface of the Earth at just below 21%. The amount of oxygen in the atmosphere alters with altitude, not one's proximity to tropical jungles. As for the idea that the public have grown bored of these gigantic prehistoric beasts, yeah, nah. Here is a video of a crowd of morons blocking traffic in Manhattan so they can get their photo taken with the sun. The sun has been around a long time, I know, I saw it in the 90s. Despite being retro, the sun still attracts vast numbers of idiots who are prepared to run and dance in front of New York traffic in order to take advantage of the rare opportunity to have their photo taken with the sun. How do you think this generation of narcissistic brain deads would react to the sight of a diplodocus in the street? Would they cry out, "Move that goddamn thing, I gotta get to work"? Or would they jump out of their car and subject the poor creature to the miserable sight of them dancing around it? There are videos I can't show on YouTube of idiots standing next to grizzly bears, wild elephants, and lions to get a selfie with them. If you were in possession of a T-Rex, everywhere you brought that T-Rex, long lines of attention whores would form with cameras at the ready to capture images of themselves standing next to the poor beast and pulling a face that looks like something from a Mr. Beast thumbnail. The plot of Jurassic World Abortion is straight out of a video game. You play as Grain Widow. You must quest to obtain 3 spiritual stones. The Kokiri's Emerald is obtained from the blood of a land dinosaur, the Goron's Ruby from the blood of an air dinosaur, and the Zora's Sapphire from the blood of a sea dinosaur. Once combined in the Temple of Big Pharma, these 3 stones will grant access to the Triforce of heart disease medication, extending life expectancy across the land of Hyrule. Our hero traverses many lands and enemies in her quest to obtain the precious gems, but at the last moment, the gems are stolen from her grasp by the evil King Pharmadorf, who wants the Triforce of heart disease medication for himself. It is in this moment that King Pharmadorf's ultimate villainous plan is unveiled. He plans to use the Triforce of heart disease medication to make money. Unlike Jurassic World Abortion, which was made as a purely artistic endeavour and isn't a shameless cash grab and a 2-hour merchandise advertisement. The plot is a standard fetch quest that was probably shit out by ChatGPT. There are crater-sized holes in this plot so massive that they could only have been made by an asteroid capable of causing an extinction-level event. If Big Pharma needs dinosaur blood to create heart medication, why do they not simply clone the blood? Or the hearts? Or if they feel it is necessary, the entire fucking dinosaur. Why does Grain Widow choose to approach the island by boat? She knows there are Jawsosaurs in the water, and as we later discover, she has access to a helicopter. Why not just fly into the island, land in the old theme park or whatever that place was, set up camp indoors there, send out drones to reconnoiter the island, plan your fetch quest operations carefully based on the intel, then head off to get the blood? But Grain Widow doesn't do any of that because despite being a former Special Forces operative turned mercenary, she's tactically illiterate. Her plan goes like this. We'll sail toward the island and hopefully get to a decent enough spot to land in without hitting rocks or being capsized by the Jawsosaurs. Then we'll fucking wing it. The subplot is also populated by braindeads. A family of 3 accompanied by a dickhead layabout who's banging one of the daughters, I forget which one. They decide to go on a sailing trip, and of all the places on the planet they could go, they decide to sail by Don't Fucking Go Here Island so that the subplot can happen. The subplot ends tragically with the survival of the entire family. The family's function is to be a stand-in for the family from the original movie. Now let's examine Jurassic World Abortion's characters. Grain Widow, an aging mercenary and former special ops agent with no tactical planning skills. At the start of the movie, she is motivated solely by money, but at the end of the movie, her heart of ice has been melted by the sight of the Rancorosaurus, and she's good now.
I'm good.
So she stops caring about money and agrees to upload the Triforce of heart disease medication online. Open source, free of charge. Or maybe she's satisfied with the $10 million she was already paid and is ready to settle down with her newfound simp after 25 years on the cock carousel. Another character is Mahershala Ali, and he exists, and you know, he's nice. Right, moving on. Pharmadorf is the treacherous corporate executive. You know he's evil because he's always wearing a suit. Even at the end, when he's eaten by the Rancorosaurus, he's wearing a dress suit, suit pants, and loafers. Why is he dressing in business attire on a tropical island full of man-eating monsters? Because he's an evil capitalist, and evil capitalists wear suits.
Capitalism requires people to be exploited.
Good Guy Scientist is here to give voice to this $225 million production's main message that capitalism is evil. He also forms a contrast to Farmadorf in order to make Farmadorf look even more evil. He also provides a retirement plan to Graying Widow. She'll still have her gym chads on the side though. I mean, she's ready to settle down now, but she's not fucking insane. The rest of Graying Widow's crew is a collection of NPCs and dinosaur snacks. They're here mostly to be eaten by dinosaurs in cinematic set pieces. I don't care about any of them enough to remember if they survived. The family is essentially one character. The family. Concerned father, wild daughter, cutesy daughter, and the leech that hangs around with them. The family do provide an excellent opportunity for merchandising though. Cute daughter finds a piece of merchandise that is not only cute like her, and highly marketable, but fits snugly in her Jurassic World backpack, which you can purchase for only £20. Buy now and save over £7. The Rancorsaurus looks absolutely ridiculous. This is an atrocious design. How much is that monstrosity? Let's have a look. 40 fucking pounds? Here is a list of idiocies the characters have to commit in order for the plot of Jurassic World Abortion to happen. Graying Widow comes up with the dumbest mission plan since the Bay of Pigs. The family choose to sail past Don't Go Here Island. The Graying Widow crew fail to carry out even basic reconnaissance, including a failure to uncover the existence of steps leading to the Goron's Ruby, a discovery which would have saved several of the NPCs. The helicopter pilot somehow manages to fly into the head of the Rancorsaurus and get eaten. Farmadorf pulls a gun on everyone and reveals his evil intention to earn a living. I can't remember why he does this. He later crashes a Humvee into the Rancorsaurus, literally delivering himself into the creature's mouth. Aging Widow chooses to upload the Triforce of Heart Disease medication to the internet because money is bad and tossing a zip file online and hoping for the best is preferable to incentivizing an experienced pharmaceutical company into creating viable medication. Jurassic World Abortion made $869 million at the box office. The movie's audience scores are irrelevant because the studio cared about the quality of this movie about as much as I care about the deeper meaning of The Weeknd's lyrics. The next movie on my list is more forgotten than the Philippine-American War. At number 8, Nobody 2. Nobody 2 is an ultra-generic sequence of trite action sequences built around a bare-bones plot. This is perhaps the most phoned-in movie of the year. The plot of Nobody 2 is that Bob Odenkirk is working as a hired assassin to pay off his debts to the Russians from the first movie, incurred after he burned their money. He decides to take his family on a vacation, and they go to a small riverside town. Bob beats up a thug who is hassling his kids in an arcade. The corrupt cops try to run Bob out of town. He gives them a beating, they tell Sharon Stone, so she sends her goons after Bob. Bob discovers Sharon Stone's drug empire and decides to destroy it. There's a big showdown in a theme park where Bob's wife kills Sharon Stone. There's a subplot involving some guy and his kid, but it's completely pointless and was clearly dumped into the script for no other reason than to pad the runtime so that the studio could get this piece of shit to the minimum possible runtime necessary to justify a theater release. The plot of Nobody 2 is an ultra low effort and then plot that relies on consistently stupid character decision making to happen. The obvious objection to my criticism is that, chill out bro, it's just an action movie bro, what about the action bro? The action is bog standard, seen it a million times action movie fodder. The action in Nobody 2 reminds me of the action scenes in Netflix originals. Unoriginal, uninspired, instantly forgettable, like a barely edible microwave dinner. Elevator fight, check. Fight on a moving vehicle, check. Bloody fight sequences juxtaposed against cheery music, check. Shitty choreography in which the stuntman is obviously intentionally missing his target, check. The first strike in a fight sequence synced up to a corny needle drop, check. That actually reminds me of Borderlands. A group of assailants attacking one by one instead of all at the same time, check. Now what does that remind me of? Idiotic NPC bad guys clustering around obvious traps, check. Again, does this remind you of anything? That said, I did like the fight at the end when the two hot chicks beat up Bob. Genuinely good scene, but it doesn't lead anywhere because the movie has to do the villain monologue trope so that the script has enough time to save the hero and kill Sharon Stone. The main reason Nobody 2 has made this year's bottom 10 is Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone gave an atrocious performance as a foul-mouthed, screaming, gesticulating villainess. This is a textbook one-note performance, and that note is loud.
Nobody cheats in my casino! Does nobody play by the rules anymore?
Her voice is loud. Her face is loud. Her movements are loud. Her reactions are loud. Loud can be funny in very small doses, but if loud is your entire shtick...
Devil is a liar! Get out of my friend, Ghost! The power of panic compels you!
It is not funny. The main reason for Jack Black fatigue is that movie fans are sick of seeing him play the same loud, annoying character in every movie. Sharon Stone's loudness also has a compounding effect. It's annoying as hell the first time and just gets worse the more she does it. By the end of the movie, her performance has morphed into an on-screen headache. That said, she's still a half-decent bit of gear. Alright, boys! The comedic conceit behind Sharon Stone's performance is that she's an old woman, so if she's really crass and rude and foul-mouthed and loud, it's funny because old women are supposed to be sweet and polite. This shtick is called social role reversal, when a character acts in a manner that contradicts the expectations of society. This was Amy Schumer's entire career. I'm a woman, but I'm going to talk dirty like a dude.
My boyfriend usually comes in me.
This never worked because women had been talking like that for decades by the time Amy Schumer waddled her fat ass into the scene, talked about how empowering and awesome it was to be fat for a decade, then used a cheat code to get slim because she knew all along that being fat is disgusting and detrimental to one's health. Sure, Amy encouraged young women to engage in a lifestyle that decimated their health and happiness and sabotaged their future before admitting that it was all bollocks, but,
Vagina.
social role reversal can be done well. Examples include Forrest Gump and The Waterboy, but Sharon Stone's old lady with a megaphone personality ain't it. The rest of the actors in Nobody 2 couldn't give less of a fuck if they were a eunuch in a brothel. Christopher Lloyd is here. It's always good to be reminded that he's still alive, and appropriately, that's his entire performance. He's alive, he's Christopher Lloyd, he fires a minigun at bad guys because it looks funny. Bob Odenkirk phones in his quiet family man who explodes into action role, and I cannot remember any of the other characters. I think there's a cop who's investigating Sharon Stone's empire, but I'm honestly not sure. There's also Bob Odenkirk's wife and kids. If I passed the actors in the street dressed exactly as they are in the movie, I wouldn't recognize them. A movie does need to be a special kind of god-awful to have no redeeming aspects. In my 2024 Worst Movies of the Year video, I judged that only the bottom 3 of that year were entirely without merit. The opening sequence of Nobody 2 when Bob is working as a hitman is mildly entertaining, with a few hackneyed, "Sure honey, I'll be home in time for dinner" jokes that half land. True Lies did it better 30 years ago. The pacing is fine. The movie glides neatly enough along its shitty non sequitur plot. Like a drunk playing darts, Nobody 2 does eventually hit a bullseye with its fight choreography through sheer weight of attempts, and I only had to suffer through this trash for an hour and 20 minutes. Nobody 2 is a textbook unasked for sequel. The original movie was different and interesting. I have a theory that nobody dies in Nobody. The movie is about a man who is emasculated in front of his family during a home invasion and who engages in a male hero fantasy as a psychological coping mechanism. Throughout the movie, there are shots of Bob running and riding the bus while looking out the window, the implication being that he is imagining his fantasy while engaged in these mechanical activities. Nobody was a fun one and done, a one-night stand of a movie that did not need a follow-up, and the movie wasn't a huge hit. It earned $57.5 million on a $16 million budget. That's a nice win for the studios, but absolutely not the kind of numbers that justify a $41 million sequel. The reason the studios thought a sequel could be viable is that Nobody was one of the first post-COVID movies to hit theaters and would have made a lot more money under normal circumstances. This gave the producers a false sense of the IP's popularity, and they made the dreadful mistake of sinking $41 million into the sequel's production budget, 2.5 times the budget of the original movie. Nobody 2 deservedly bombed at the box office, finishing with a $25 million haul. The miserable box office added to the marketing budget added up to at least a $50 million loss for the studios. I really cannot overemphasize just how disastrous Nobody 2's commercial performance was, so here's a quote from the movie's Wikipedia page to thrust the point home. The film was released theatrically on August 15th, 2025. It was later made available for digital download on September 2nd the same year. Nobody 2 wasn't even in theaters for 3 weeks before the studios gave up on it and dumped it into the early digital release graveyard. Bob Odenkirk has expressed interest in making Nobody 3 and 4, but nobody is interested. Coming 7th in the Despot's Worst Movies of 2025 is a film that was actually released at the end of 2024 in the November-December awards bait window, but it released internationally in mid-2025, which is when I saw it. The movie's name will be explanation enough for why the director wanted it dropped into the end-of-year Oscar bait rush, because this movie is called Queer.
Ha! Gay!
Queer is directed by Luca Guadagnino, director of Twinking Elio, better known as Call Me By Your Name, a dreadful movie, which I reviewed in a previous video. Guadagnino also directed Challengers, an excellent movie, one of the best of 2024, and in his greatest and most based moment, my guy Luca walked out of the Golden Globes after Emilia Perez won Best Picture, so it gives me no pleasure to rate Queer the 7th worst movie of 2025. Right, let's get straight to the point. Queer features a scene in which Daniel Craig is giving his twink a blowjob. Twink blasts into Daniel Craig's mouth. Daniel gets up to presumably spit out Twink's cum, but then Twink stops him, and, well, Karen iPhone, roll the rest of the scene. That's for real, yeah. That's in the movie. But even more scandalous than the cum kiss is the CGI. Look at this green screen background. The surfaces are completely flat, and the guy behind Twink doesn't even have a face. Queer is an adaptation of the 1985 William S. Burroughs novella of the same name. The plot is that Daniel Craig has taken a trip to some shithole town in Mexico in the 50s. The town is a popular haunt of artsy American homosexuals. Daniel notices a tasty young piece of ass he hasn't seen round town before, and endeavours to seduce the young man. Queer is split into 3 very distinct, very boring acts. In the first act, Daniel Craig tries to seduce Twink, a feat which he achieves around the 40-minute mark, which leads to the blowjob cum kiss. Do you want to see that again? Maybe you missed it the first time round? Ice Cube, would you like to see the cum kiss again? No! Despite his initial success, Daniel finds Twink growing increasingly distant. Eventually, Daniel hears that Twink is about to head back to the States, and Daniel doesn't want that because he likes having sex with Twink, so he decides to hire Twink as his catamite. Daniel's offer is that the two will go on an adventure through South America together. Twink will receive a weekly stipend, and in exchange, Daniel gets to fuck him twice a week. Twink agrees, and the second act is them traveling around, fucking in hotel rooms, arguing, getting sick. It's a gay couple's video log from the 50s, and it is exactly as boring as it sounds. In the third act, the couple set out into the Amazon in search of a psychedelic drug, which Daniel is curious about, having read that the CIA is using it in experiments. In the Amazon, they seek out a crone witch doctor who concocts the psychedelic for them. The pair have a psychedelic trip, and the film finishes with Daniel and his rent boy going their separate ways. Then there's a Lynchian dream sequence in which Daniel shoots Twink in the head, turns into an old man, and dies. There were 6 people in the movie theater I watched Queer in when the movie started. 3 walked out, and no, Luca, it wasn't because they were scandalized by the shocking sex scenes, it's because they were bored. Queer has a typical and then plot. Daniel is cruising around a gay holiday resort, and then he spots Twink, and then they fuck, then they go off on vacation, then Daniel gets sick, then he gets better, then they go into the Amazon, then they meet the crone, then they trip out, then... What is the point of any of this? There is no story here. Queer stands... Yes, such people exist. Assert that Queer is a metaphorical exploration of loneliness. This analysis is true but incomplete. Queer is a failed exploration of loneliness. There are 2 types of loneliness: physical isolation and social isolation. A wiry music nerd in a high school classroom full of jocks will feel socially isolated because no one in the class gets him. In Queer, Daniel has gay friends who get him. There's a fat guy who reads Daniel like an open book. Daniel has regular sexual encounters. He is neither physically nor socially isolated, and he obtains the sex and companionship from Twink that he desires. He fails to access Twink's inner world, but to access someone's inner world is to achieve a level of intimacy with them that is extremely rare. The absence of such access does not equate to loneliness. Daniel thinks he might be able to reach Twink with the use of the psychedelic, This too fails. At this point, Queer has said everything it needs to say, but Luca Guadagnino decides to drive his loneliness theme home with a sledgehammer blow. The 10-minute dream sequence filled with visual symbolism. Guadagnino tries to cheat code the movie to thematic depth in the end sequence when Daniel grows old and dies alone. An aging Daniel alone in bed symbolizes his yearning for the companionship of Twink, his dependence on the fading memories of a bygone relationship. I appreciate the ideas Guadagnino is trying to communicate here, but the execution is too rushed and hammy. Queer does not make up for its meandering, pointless non sequitur plot with thematic depth. Scene for scene, the movie is an excruciating slog. Much of the first act is characters having long, tedious conversations at the local, where the topic of conversation is invariably each other. And these are not interesting people. They're all bores. Being a homosexual in the 50s does not make you an interesting person, something this movie does not seem to realize. The two central characters are both ass. Cum-filled ass. Daniel is a one-note character. That note is, love me. Twink's one note is, come hither, but never too close. Or to put it more bluntly, you can have my ass, but never my heart. Twink is a total nothing sandwich with a layer of cum sauce. He is one of the most boring fucking characters of any movie in this list. He has no interests, no personality, no strong opinions about anything. His conversation is dry and reserved. So when Daniel and Twink go off together, the viewer is subjected to a pair of boars aimlessly arsing around South America. Queer is 2 hours and 10 minutes of life force sucking boredom that leaves the viewer feeling drained and limp. The sex scenes are interminably long and try so fucking hard to be gross and controversial, and these dragged out graphic scenes are a deliberate choice by Guadagnino. Quoting from Wikipedia now, Guadagnino described Queer as his most personal film and a tribute to the films of Powell and Pressburger, such as The Red Shoes 1948, saying, I think they would appreciate the sex scenes in Queer, which are numerous and quite scandalous. The movie often comes off as pornography with pretensions to high art, an ultra-niche project made by an artsy cosmopolitan gay man for artsy cosmopolitan gay men to fawn over. Here's an example of a Queer review which demonstrates this perfectly, by Eric Langberg, writing for Medium. Queer is an exceptional film, yet another transfixing meditation on what it's like to be a body that wants. Furthermore, it's a meditation on what it's like to be a queer body that wants. Okay, the use of the term body to describe a human being is so fucking insufferable that I'm afraid I have to kill someone before we can proceed with the rest of the video. This is Scott. Now, Scott was recently apprehended marathoning the Lord of the Rings trilogy. What's so wrong with that, you ask? Well, Scott was watching the theatrical cuts.
I just need one more chance. I won't do it again. Please.
While Scott has been judged guilty, it would be unjust not to grant the man a chance at clemency. For that reason, I'm going to open up Ice Cube's War of the Worlds at a random point in the runtime and play it for 10 seconds. If I see something funny and or meme-worthy during that 10 seconds, Scott dies. If not, he can go free. Right, so War of the Worlds is now open, and we'll just open it up to a random spot and give it 10 seconds. Well, that didn't take long.
I just need...
Queer was made on a budget of $56 million. Yes, really. This movie, which has only 2 lead characters, spends the first hour and 7 minutes of runtime in the same location as sleepy little Mexican town, and the rest of the runtime in rundown buses, hotel rooms, and other sleepy little towns, followed by a trip to the Amazon, cost $56 million. And despite the budget and the absence of anything significant to spend it on, the movie features green screen backgrounds that look like they came out of a 90s PC game, and extras who don't have a face. Shockingly, Queer was a box office disaster. That's right, somehow a period movie about 2 gay men travelling South America in the 50s wasn't a box office smash. The movie made $7 million at the box office. Queer's financial backers lost well over $50 million on the production budget alone, and all of the marketing budget. But Despot, I hear you protest. What about all the awards Queer won? Surely this vast hoard of accolades more than made up for the vast financial losses. Well, dear subject, Queer won 3 awards. The The National Board of Review gave it a Top 10 Film Award, and they gave Best Actor to Daniel Craig, who was good in the movie. And the Florida Film Critics Circle awarded Queer Best Adapted Screenplay. So yeah, $50 million well spent. I fear this is the last we will be hearing from Luca Guadagnino for a long time. His follow-up to Queer, After the Hunt, was released just 2 months ago. That movie cost $80 million and made $9.3 million at the box office. After 2 massive commercial failures, it is likely that my boy Luca will be consigned to an extended period in director jail, though we hope to see a reformed Luca again in the future. We are now halfway through our worst movies of the year presentation. And that means it's time for the Despot's family-friendly halftime show. We have apprehended the director of every movie mentioned so far in the video and suspended them over a cauldron of boiling acid. A director will be selected at random using a lucky wheel, and this lucky winner gets to watch his or her fellow directors lowered into the acid. Now, 5 of these directors are about to suffer a horrifyingly painful death, but not as horrifying as the sponsor of our halftime show, Disney Plus, who are taking this unique opportunity to unveil their new teaser trailer. Thank you, Disney. Alright, Karen iPhone, we better get on with the show. These directors are busy people after all. Unveil this year's lucky winner. And the winner is number 10! Gareth Edwards, director of Jurassic World Abortion. Congratulations, Gareth. I know you're feeling relieved right now, but pay close attention to what is about to happen to your fellow directors and let it serve as a warning to the consequences of future failure. Karen iPhone, flip the switch. We hope you enjoyed the Despot's family-friendly halftime show, because I know at least 5 people who didn't. Thanks again, and let's get back to the video. At number 6 is a movie that came out of a Disney boardroom meeting where the agreed upon top priority was put a Grogu in it, make it lame and gay. This movie is in fact so gay that it makes Queer look like Predator. Predator Badlands.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Predator Badlands is the Alien Romulan ass of 2025, a Disney slop movie which Disneyfies an existing franchise, but which has nonetheless attracted a dedicated shieldom who will defend the movie until it becomes uncool to do so, because everyone who cares has come to the realization that the movie is total trash. Predator Badlands is a terrible Predator movie, but also just plain terrible. So before we examine how Badlands desecrates the Predator franchise, let us first examine what makes it such an awful movie in its own right. Badlands' major problems are as follows. The world building is awful. The premise makes no sense. The movie never shuts up. The plot has a massive over-reliance on coincidence. The alien is divested of his alien psychology and turned into a stand-in for a human male suffering from toxic masculinity. The female android is insufferable. The male androids are all idiotic, nerfed NPCs who present no threat or challenge. The plot relies on stupid characters making bad decisions. The plot contradicts itself on several occasions. Much of the movie is a merchandise advertisement. The Predator has daddy issues now. The female android who guides the Predator on his emotional journey of self-actualization is a one-note character. That note is quirky. She's the Quirk Chungus meme. The movie is tropier than a 44-year-old mother of 3 on Tinder demanding nothing less than 6 feet, 7 figures, and 8 inches. Let's start with what I consider to be the worst aspect of Predator Badlands: dynamic intensity. Film dynamics is a concept I discuss in my Force Awakens video. Here is a brief clip from that video to explain. Something always needs to be happening, or else someone always needs to be talking, or both. I recently watched a video about fan editing, that is, movie fans creating their own cut of a movie with the aim of improving it. The video showed a clip from a fan edit of the aforementioned scene from The Force Awakens in which the editor removed the dialogue. I'll show the clips and let you decide which you prefer.
Why are we here again?
Get your droid on a clean ship.
Clean.
Like The Force Awakens and The Somehow Return of Palpatine, Predator Badlands never shuts the fuck up.
Let's back up and start at the beginning. Together was formed 64 billion cycles ago. Trio, the dynamic trio! Remember when we went down the tree?
Thea isn't actually saying anything of substance here. This is just fatuous yapping. She's summarizing what happened a few minutes ago as if the viewers are children who need constant reminding of the events of the plot. This yap style of dialogue has become a widespread infestation in modern Hollywood movies.
So, I would like my name to be Lila.
That's a pretty name, Lila.
To emphasize just how insufferable the yap trope is, I will here transpose it into the original Star Wars. Oh my god, Master Luke, when we passed those stormtroopers, I was like totally convinced we were doomed. And not even like low-key, my guy. I'm completely traumatized by burning those Jawa bodies. Like that whole vibe I was catching from that pile of dead bodies was way off. Like, not cool, totally not cool, because they were on fire. Ha ha ha! Sorry, bad timing, too soon, inappropriate. You know, this cantina really isn't my jam. Like, it's just not like even vibing with me, isn't? Yap is all over Badlands. There are good opportunities to let the dynamic rest. But every single open space this piece of shit has is filled in with some noise or action or yap.
That monster's mouth, I mean, didn't smell great, but...
Let's see that scene again, but this time without the insufferable fucking yapping. Nice, right? But Disney movies can't do that anymore because Disney doesn't trust the audience with 10 seconds of silent reflection. I am so sick of the yap trope.
The First Amendment gives us the right to say what we want.
Shut
when you think about it.
Now let's talk about plot. Dek begins his journey after his father kills Dek's brother, and Dek is blasted off into space. Father instructed brother to kill Dek because Dek was weak and the Yautja called her weak. Why would a civilization which murders its weakest wait until those weaklings are adults to carry out this culling? All this does is create the conditions for rebellion. Young adult Yautjas who fear they might be culled will form war bands to resist being killed. Even if the rebellion is unsuccessful, it will still cause tremendous damage to local infrastructure and the lives of many citizens before it can be put down. This practice is not sustainable in any civilization that hopes to advance beyond the Stone Age, yet Yautjas are spacefaring. The plot of Badlands is built on a foundation of slime. Dek loses control of his ship when he is still far away from planet hardcore difficulty, but by an astonishing coincidence, he crash lands within walking distance of Thea, the only other sentient being on the planet who can help him. Thea is played by Ellie Fanning. Here is a picture of Ellie Fanning's ass. Now you know why Disney excluded Ellie Fanning's bottom half from most of this movie. Thea is supposed to be a Kalisk expert, so why does she not recognize Grogu as a baby Kalisk? And what a coincidence that Dek and Thea run into Grogu a mere few minutes before the script will require Grogu to save their lives. Why does the Kalisk not smell its baby scent on Dek immediately? Grogu spits on Dek as a means of marking him as a friendly. This suggests that Kalisks are extremely sensitive to smell, but the Kalisk fights Dek for several minutes without picking up her baby's scent. It only picks up its own baby's scent when a few inches from Dek's face, which suggests a poor sense of smell. Badlands contradicts the ecology of its own world build. The evil android Tessa shows up to freeze the Kalisk after the fight is over because she wanted to wait until the action slop sequence was over before moving the plot along to next thing. The androids that Tessa commands have been selected by Weyland-Yutani for this high priority mission to capture the final boss of Planet Hardcore difficulty. Why then are these androids so shit? They don't properly restrain Dek, they don't render him unconscious. Instead, they waste time interrogating him, asking him questions about his tech that have absolutely nothing to do with their mission protocols. This is just bad programming. Any competent corporation would program the androids to immediately store any creature of potential value in cryo-freeze. The corporation will do the interrogating when the creature is brought back to them. After some yapping between Ellie Fanning, the shit androids fall for Thea's obvious ploy and Dek escapes. During this sequence, the androids use Thea as a translator. Why do they not use a universal translator, the device Thea has been using to communicate with Dek this whole time? After his escape, Dek does some backtracking to farm resources from Planet Hardcore, which he will use as weapons against the androids. From the moment Dek crash lands a stone's throw away from the only person on the planet who can help him, Hardcore has been trying to kill him. On level 1, he has to escape from carnivorous vines. On level 2, he has to survive a field of plant bombs. He loses the boss battle on level 2 and has to be saved by Thea. On level 3, he has to take down a dinosaur in a field of razor grass. On level 4, he is almost defeated by the Kalisk, but as soon as the plot needs Hardcore to stop trying to kill Dek, it stops. He can roam around freely at night when the area should be even more dangerous and nothing tries to kill him. He can retrieve Thea's ass and legs and follow them to Thea, and nothing attacks him en route or goes after Thea's ass despite its desirability. Dek starts killing the Weyland bots and none of the other bots notice because they aren't networked. Now, if I was the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, I would have these androids networked so that if one suffers damage or suddenly shuts down, all the other androids are immediately alerted and can engage emergency defense protocols. Weyland-Yutani can do interstellar travel, so I'm sure they can just about manage local Bluetooth connections. But the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is a retard, so they didn't do that. So the Guardians of the Dek, Grogu, and Thea destroy, 30, 40 of these Weyland bots. You know, the ones selected for a military role on a high priority mission. Then they fight the final boss, Tessa, but they can't beat her, so the Kalisk beats her. Then Tessa kills the Kalisk and does some yap yap and gets killed. Here's a list of tropes that appear in Predator Badlands. Thea saves herself because the damsel in distress trope needs to be subverted. Dek isn't allowed to save Thea, so she saves herself with her own legs. The Weyland bots being defeated by a pair of legs does make them nerfed to the point of absurdity, but it's worth it because she don't need no man or no Yautja. The subversion of the damsel in distress trope, also known as the she don't need no man trope, also appeared in Tron Arse, the Mario movie, Damsel, almost every Disney live-action remake, notably The Little Mermaid, and twice in The Force Awakens, among many other movies made for the modern audience. The Grogu trope. A cute merchandise placement is dropped into the plot to interact with the main characters. We saw this same trope in Jurassic World Abortion. Overcoming toxic masculinity as a core theme, Dek must learn to let his guard down, to turn away from self-imposed social isolation, embrace his emotions, and accept found family. And for the Badlands stands about to spurg out in the comments that, oh, actually he doesn't reject the outer culture because he returns to his planet. Yes, that's what you sound like. All of you. Dek killing his own father symbolizes his final victory over toxic masculinity. And more importantly, Dek has opened up his inner world to the embrace of strangers. He has learned to let his guard down and be vulnerable, thus divesting himself of his
toxic masculinity.
The next trope. Our heroes are at the mercy of the villain, but she lets them get away through astounding levels of incompetence. This trope appears in G20 and Nobody 2. The nerfed NPC minions are easily wiped out in large numbers, also in G20 and Nobody 2. NPC minions attack one by one instead of as a single group. Again, G20 and Nobody 2. A group of NPC minions walk toward an obvious trap and bunch close together, so they'll all be killed when the trap is set off. Again, a trope we saw in G20 and Nobody 2. The Marvel cliffhanger which promises a sequel. The world build of Planet Yautja is awful. As previously mentioned, the practice of waiting until individuals were adults to cull them would lead to constant rebellion. The practice would be abandoned by the government to avoid rebellion, or else one of these rebellions would eventually succeed, and the new government would abolish the practice. How is a society that values martial prowess above all other traits so technologically advanced? If you kill every skinny nerd in the class because he's not Chad enough, who is going to invent everything? You can have an alien species that practices socially enforced murder of the weak, but they cannot also be a spacefaring civilization, because such a barbaric practice would block development, because development requires a civilization to train the young in a vast array of non-martial pursuits. If Yautja's civilization operated as it does in Predator Badlands, the Yautja would still be in the Stone Age. The world build of Planet Hardcore is also trash. The planet is dangerous when the plot needs it to be dangerous, and safe when the plot needs it to be safe. The androids are farcically useless. Weyland-Yutani is proficient enough to engage in interstellar commercial travel, they just haven't figured out Bluetooth yet, and they make the galaxy's shittest security bots. I could go in depth about what an utter desecration Badlands is of the Predator franchise, but for the sake of brevity, a quick comparison. Predator 2 features a group of coked out maniacs engaging in a shootout with the cops. Predator Badlands features a fireside wellness session in which the Predator opens up to a female android and a piece of Disney merchandise. One sees such desecration, and what can one say but Disney? Now to the movie's commercial performance. Karen iPhone the meme.
How it started.
Predator Badlands is a hit at the box office, setting franchise record. The latest Predator film switches up the formula and comes out on top.
How it went.
Predator Badlands continues bombing at box office with brutal second weekend drop.
How it ended.
As of December 9th, 1 month after Predator Badlands released, the movie has grossed $180 million on a $105 million budget, $70 million short of the $250 million Disney needed to break even on their update of the Predator franchise for the modern audience, which makes Predator Badlands one of 2025's most deserved flops. And speaking of well-deserved flops, the first movie condemned to the eternal shame of a spot in 2025's bottom 5 is Mickey 17. Mickey 17 was supposed to be the big-budget Hollywood breakout movie of Parasite director Bong Joon-ho. Hollywood fell in love with this hack after circle-jerking to the massively overrated Parasite, a thoroughly stupid movie with hammy, trite themes, typical of Bong Joon-ho's themes over substance directing style. Mickey 17 is about an indebted man named Mickey who needs to escape Earth to avoid his loan shark. So he signs up to an interstellar colony expedition, volunteering as the ship Guinea Pig, who will be cloned in the event of death. After reaching planet Hoth, Mickey dies and is cloned 16 times over the course of his professional duties. The 17th Mickey is injured and thought dead, but is actually still alive. He returns to the ship to find that an 18th Mickey has been cloned, and the two begin working together to uncover the evil plans of Orange Man Bad, the leader of the expedition. Bong Joon-ho is good at cinematography. What he is not good at is writing, and he made the terrible mistake of writing Mickey 17 by himself. His script is full of plot holes. When they arrive on planet Hoth, the expedition sets up their first colony on a giant featureless ice plateau. Why would they settle in this area? There are zero resources available to them here. The colonists would settle next to a river, or a forest with a big lake nearby, or a coastal area with rich marine life and big game. If the best the expedition can do is a big dead ice plain, then they've come to the wrong planet. Hoth is not viable for colonization. My guess is that Bong Joon-ho chose this landscape because it's far cheaper to CGI a boring, flat, empty plain than the many alternatives that would have made sense. The Mickeys are cloned using a meat printer. He comes out of the printer fully formed, basically ready to get cracking. This creates major problems for the plot. If the expedition can print a 180-pound man out of seemingly nothing, why can't they print food? A major plot point in Mickey 17 is food shortage. Half rations are used as punishment and colonists have to survive on miserable-looking black bread. Why don't they use cloning technology to print animals for consumption or vegetables? If you can clone a pig, you can surely clone a carrot? In fact, why doesn't the expedition ship have a dedicated food factory if they have the technology to print meat? And what are the Mickey clones made of? Are they grown from a few super fast replicating cells or assembled from 180 pounds of 3D cloning goo? The movie never answers this question. Mickey 17 is thought dead because he falls into a chasm. How did they find him? He doesn't have a tracker. And why doesn't he have a tracker? The loan shark sends a thug on the expedition to pursue the debt from Mickey 17 and Stephen Yeun. But the thug waits 4 years before he makes his presence known to Mickey and Stephen. Why? And why would the thug even do this? His boss, the loan shark, is back on Earth, and Earth is just a memory now. The thug will never return there, so what incentive does he have to pursue the debt? A major plot point in the second act is a love triangle between Mickey, Mickey's girlfriend, and a hot girl. This subplot goes nowhere and is completely forgotten about. Why is Orange Man Bad so determined to gas the worms? They pose no threat to the human settlement, and they are not standing in the way of precious resources. Avatar is not a good movie, but at least the humans had a clear motive for clearing the Na'vi out of Big Tree. The humans wanted the unobtainium underneath Big Tree. In terms of world building, plot, and character motivation, Mickey 17 is worse than Avatar. How do the Mickey clones have memories of previous clones who have died? The clone consciousness is uploaded from the original Mickey, not the predecessor clone, yet each clone has access to the memories of all previous clones. Easily, the worst part of Mickey 17 is Mark Ruffalo. This may be the worst performance of 2025, a low-effort Donald Trump impersonation.
Why is Commander Marshall cutting into that big, beautiful, handsome rock?
Ruffalo's entire performance is a shitty SNL skit. No subtlety, no thought, no attempt to embody a character in the story world that character inhabits. A shameless use of the movie as a platform to mock the current president. Pathetic. Ruffalo's Orange Man Bad performance was lazy and unprofessional, and it's so passé. Christ, man, you don't need to be MAGA to realize that the Orange Man Bad trope was played out 6 years ago. This shite has been going on for a fucking decade. Everyone, no matter their political affiliation, are sick of it. Ruffalo's performance is by far the most out-of-touch, fatigue-inducing and annoying of the year. This is Razzies level bad. Now, all that said, it's not like Ruffalo had much to work with. His character, I'm not looking up his name, was awful. A one-note, power-hungry, idiot bad guy with main character syndrome who wants to gas the native alien species because he's bad. He makes the stupid decision to go out and kill the worms personally because his wife convinces him that it will be good optics because Orange Man, which leads to his death when Mickey 18 goes full Akbar on him. Mickey 18 is a dark variant. There's some potential there, but Bong Joon-ho is too crap a writer to realize it, and the rest of the characters are stock templates. Mrs. Orange Man Bad is a wispy villainess with no depth. Stephen Yeun is a forgettable everyman. Mickey is a wimpy wallflower. His girlfriend is a domineering mama bear type. The hot girl is nice and hot. I had zero emotional investment in Mickey 17's characters, and watching them blunder their way through this contrived, plot hole-ridden mess was an exercise in tedium. The big twist is that the alien monsters are actually the good guys, and it is the humans who are the true monsters. The bad guys are actually good, and the good guys are actually bad. Trope is so played out. This trope worked in Underworld 22 years ago. Since then, we've seen the trope in Avatar, Megamind, Harry Potter, Transformers 1, Captain Marvel. There's your big hint. If the trope you're leaning on for your big dramatic moment showed up in Captain Marvel, your script needs a rewrite. And the obvious anti-colonial message in Mickey 17 is eye-rolling, especially coming from Bong Joon-ho. He's Korean. If he wants to have an allegory about the evils of colonialism, how about make the Japanese the bad guys? You know, those guys that colonized Korea for 40 years, banned the use of the Korean language and compelled Koreans to change their names to Japanese names, a policy specifically designed to erase Korean identity. The Japanese also enslaved 300,000 Korean women as sex slaves, sent millions of Japanese civilians into Korea to take over the economy, personally and physically colonise the land, and drafted millions of Korean men as soldiers and labourers. But fuck all that, because white men are the evil colonisers because white man bad. Just look at how they turned the once peaceful and prosperous land of Australia into the hellhole that it is today. Mickey 17 tries so hard to please the Hollywood establishment that sucked off Parasite and handed Bong Joon-ho $118 million to make this piece of shit. You know what would have been a far more surprising twist than the obvious revelation that the aliens are actually really good and the white man is actually evil? The revelation that the aliens are actually a serious, genuine threat to the human presence on the planet. They are savage and brutal and cannot be negotiated with. Humanity has to choose: leave the planet or exterminate the aliens. Far better. And by the way, that's not even a choice. If Earth really was dying and humanity had to turn Pandora into a new home, I would not hesitate to annihilate the entire Navi species, nor would I hesitate to enjoy this Darwinian xenocide, as doomsday cultists never tire of reminding us there is no planet B, so we must conquer one, brutally exterminate the natives, and set up colonies there. The first act of Mickey 17 is plagued by excessive voiceover narration.
I applied to the colony expedition, but there's like a million other people with the same idea. Seems like the whole of this rotten planet was...
Voiceover narration is rarely a good idea, and Mickey 17 perfectly demonstrates why. The narration is completely pointless. Mickey is telling the viewers what they are looking at in real time. How about shut the fuck up? Let the audience watch the movie and figure it out for themselves. Mickey 17 was received by audiences and critics with lukewarm indifference. The movie bombed at the box office and was quickly forgotten. Warner Brothers were Mickey 17's main financial backers. Sinking money into this garbage was one of many bad decisions Warner have made over the past decade that ultimately led to the financial collapse of the company and its purchase by Netflix. The only good thing that came out of Mickey 17 is that it exposed Bong Joon-ho as the hack that he is. But Bong can at least take consolation from the fact that, as ass as Mickey 17 was, it was not the worst sci-fi of 2025. The next movie on my list came out in January, but as soon as I was blessed with the mercy of the credits, I knew it would make the bottom 5 of my end of year video. Lads,
Brace for impact.
Star Trek Section 31. Here's a scene from Star Trek Section 31 in which the calm, collected Girlboss pilot has to restrain the spiraling emotions of the incompetent man.
Posey, look at me. You just need to make a call. You know what to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's the same scene from the Concorde episode of Secret Level.
Whole guild armada behind us and we can't steer the ship. We're gonna die.
Out of my way. We can figure this out. Right. Smokes, reroute all power to our other engines. Raid, prep patch kits. I want those turrets ready to come.
We're gonna die.
Here is the same scene from The Outer Worlds 2.
Commander, we've been hit by one of those space anomalies.
Buddy?
And the piloting system is down.
Buddy?
The astrogator's gears are shot!
Get a hold of yourself. You're an Earth Directorate agent.
Affirmative, Commander. What are the orders?
Brace for impact.
The exact same scene 3 times in 1 year, all pushing the same misandrist feminist message. Men are bumbling morons and they need a woman to take control. Trying to make sense of Star Trek Section 31's plot from only one viewing is like trying to solve a jigsaw puzzle from memory. Here is what I remember. Someone is trying to put together a crew to cosplay as Guardians of the Galaxy. They recruit Michelle Yeoh, who was an evil empress in her own universe, and is hiding in this universe after losing power or getting sucked into a black hole or something. While evil empress, Michelle Yeoh burned some poor bastard's face off with a giant sword, as a symbol of his enslavement to her. But later on, poor bastard turns out to be the villain, and Michelle Yeoh is the hero the plot calls upon to stop him. The protectors of the cosmos consist of a girl with blue lipstick. I have no clue what she does in the film. A guy who reminds me of Captain Freedom from The Running Man when he was wearing all that shit they put on him to go fight Arnold Schwarzenegger. The Captain Freedom knockoff is a moronic white man. A microbial life form who controls a humanoid robot played by a guy with an Irish accent who gave one of the worst performances of the year. This might actually have been worse than Mark Ruffalo's Orange Man Bad, now that I'm recalling it.
I will kick your ass until you cannot form a solid...
All the actor does is grit his teeth, speak in a really annoying, overly exaggerated Irish accent, and speak with a tremble in his voice. It's fucking ear-rape to listen to. There's a black guy in the crew. I remember him because he has this really memeable expression that suggests confusion, which I used in my Concord video. That's literally all I remember about him. There's the fat idiot who can't fly a ship until Girlboss tells him to calm down. He can turn into Venom, but that's all I remember about him. Poor Bastard invades the universe with Michelle Yeoh's old army, and she and the protectors of the cosmos have to stop him. So they stop him, and there's a scene in a casino in which they all celebrate. That's everything I can remember, so I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go rewatch the movie on double speed, then I'll come back to this video and explain in more detail why Star Trek Section 31 is the 4th worst movie of 2025. Why the fuck did I do this to myself? While I'm off rewatching the movie, Karen iPhone will be putting Scott on trial for some crime or other.
The criminal is charged with expressing excitement about the Netflix acquisition of Warner in a recent post on X. Does the convicted admit to his guilt?
Your Honor, predetermining a defendant's guilt is illegal. In fact, it's an abuse of my client's human rights.
Stockton Rush might have been crushed to death in the Titan submersible tragedy, but at least he can claim a refund on his Xbox controller.
Yes, Your Honor. Very funny. My client has expressed genuine regret at...
Earlier this year, a CEO was publicly humiliated when he was caught cheating on his wife at a Coldplay concert. I completely understand his embarrassment. I'd be embarrassed too if I was caught listening to Coldplay.
Your Honor, my client's life is on the line.
This year, a CEO was caught cheating on his wife at a Coldplay concert, but it could have been worse. He could have been at a Taylor Swift concert.
Your Honor, my client wishes to enter a plea of...
I'm not surprised the CEO's wife divorced him. If I found out my spouse was a Coldplay fan, I'd get a divorce immediately. The guilty is found guilty as charged. The sentence will be carried out immediately. Bring in the executioner. Stockton Rush was the CEO who was crushed to death in the Titan submersible tragedy, but it could have been worse. He could have been caught at a Coldplay concert.
That was unpleasant. The movie is basically a sequence of tropey genre set pieces. The opening, in which Michelle Yeoh burns poor bastard's face off, is space opera. Then there's an exposition dump Mission Impossible type intro, in which an unnamed taskmaster gives instructions to the protectors of the cosmos, which quickly morphs into a heist sequence in which the protectors of the cosmos plot to steal a doomsday bomb called the Godsend, a weapon Michelle Yeoh commissioned when she was Empress. After the heist sequence, the movie becomes a spy thriller Find the Mole mystery, which turns into an Agatha Christie-style whodunit a few scenes later. Michelle Yeoh plays the part of Kenneth Branagh and uncovers the vile fiends responsible for the murder in front of everyone, which of course leads to a chase scene, so the movie jumps back to the sci-fi action genre. The rest of the movie is really shit, low production quality sci-fi channel afternoon slop. Dear God, this movie is awful. I haven't watched much Star Trek, but it doesn't matter how bad the worst of it is. This is the worst the franchise has ever been. Rock bottom would be a massive jump up from whatever the hell Section 31 is. This is just sick. It's like Alex Kurtzman is deliberately doing as much damage to the franchise as he can out of sheer spite. Another aspect of Section 31 that really stood out on a rewatch is just how unremittingly ugly this movie is. The production design, hair and makeup, costume design, cinematography, all of it is hideous. Here are a few images which demonstrate the problem. In this frame, poor bastard sits on a featureless bridge dominated by black and dark red. He wears a monotone black leather suit, sits inside a black control booth, which is foregrounded by a black floor, and stands in front of black steps with a black wall behind them. An annoying Irish guy is seated on the steps dressed entirely in black. The entire shot is framed by what I assume is the black frame of the ship window. So the color scheme in this shot is black on 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 black. That is a description that should only exist in the most depraved corners of the internet. Look at the massive overuse of piss filter, excessive fog, and desaturation in this shot. The protectors of the cosmos all look horrible. Black guy wears a piece of half armor with a hole in it. Blue Lips is another monotone catastrophe and wears what looks like a random piece of scrap metal coiled around her collar. Private Freedom looks like a developmentally challenged 40-year-old virgin dressed in his DIY Iron Man suit.
It's an incredibly gorgeous looking thing.
Annoying Irish guy has a ghastly blonde fringe, and there's a baldy chick with a big egghead who reminds me of Coneheads, the 1993 box office bomb that tanked Dan Aykroyd's career, and which is considerably better than any of the shite I've been discussing in this video. The baldy chick looked familiar, so I decided to look her up, and it turns out she is the model Ubisoft used for the lead character of Star Wars Outlaws, Mam Solo. Every time this girl gets a role that might get her halfway noticed, if nothing else, some jealous woke dickhead shows up to uglify her because hot girls aren't allowed to be hot anymore. In Star Wars Outlaws, Mam Solo looked like something you would expect to crawl out of the Chernobyl nuclear reactor, and modern Star Trek turned her into Egghead. Now, you still would. I'm not saying you wouldn't, but can we please just let women be hot again? Body positivity is dead. Okay? Even the celebrity wankers that promoted it lost weight and admitted that it was bullshit all along. Stop with this crab in a bucket mentality of elevating slobs and dragging down hot girls. I could go on for literally hours about how ugly Star Trek Section 31 is. Pick a random frame and there will be many aspects of it that are visually offensive. This is the ugliest movie of 2025. During my rewatch, I counted 5 exposition dumps in the first 40 minutes. There are many plot holes and plot contrivances that I couldn't be bothered going over. At one point, the protectors of the cosmos are running around a planet after their ship has been blown up by the mole, and I realized in that moment that I had no idea where they were or why they were there, as if several scenes were missing between the casino heist and the interrogation of this visual monstrosity. Michelle Yeoh defeats Irish guy, and for absolutely no reason, he tells her that poor bastard is still alive and is leading an invasion fleet into this universe. So the plot contrives a way to get the surviving protectors of the cosmos to poor bastard's ship, and Michelle Yeoh defeats him. Then there's a sequel bait ending in the casino.
We have work to do. Has anybody been to Turkana 4?
Yes, this movie actually has the cheek to suggest it deserves a sequel. The acting in Star Trek Section 31 is atrocious. The only good performance is from Humberly Gonzalez, who plays Egghead. The rest of the performances fall into 2 categories: overacting and just give me my paycheck so I can go home. Michelle Yeoh, poor bastard, and Irish guy are all overacting horribly. Michelle Yeoh is appalling in this, but still not as bad as Irish guy. The rest of the cast just want paid so I can get out of this hideous fucking costume, be done with this wretched production, and forget about it as fast as possible. Jamie Lee Curtis shows up right at the end to tease a sequel because she was in the worst sci-fi movie of 2024 and she wanted to keep her streak alive. Star Trek Section 31 has no redeeming aspects. None. There is not a single good thing to be said about this movie. Star Trek needs to stop.
Stop! Just stop, man.
Paramount need to get a restraining order against Alex Kurtzman to prevent him from being within 10 miles of Star Trek. What has been done to this franchise is unconscionable. However, we can still hold out hope for the as yet unnamed upcoming Star Trek project, which will see a collaboration between audience favourite Alex Kurtzman and Dear White People director Justin Simien.
Dear white people! You made me hate myself as a kid, so now I hate you and
I can't wait. Now, I know what you're thinking, dear subject. How could that not be the worst movie of the year? What could possibly be worse than Star Trek Section 31? I have 3 answers for you. The first of those, and the third worst movie of the year, Captain Capeshit, Brave New Slop. When I was in the theatre watching this, I'd already forgotten the plot of the movie by the time the credits rolled, but I will always remember the guy I passed on the way out. He looked like a deflated balloon. His vibe was that of a man who wanted to get up and walk out an hour and a half ago, but who had lost the will to move through sheer boredom. If movies have souls, Brave New Slop will burn in hell for all eternity. A punishment punishment that will still not suffice to make up for the crime of its existence. You will not hear me compare this movie to trash, feces, or any other form of refuse, for to do so would be to libel those occasionally useful byproducts. This steaming pile of radioactive slime is truly unwatchable. Brave New Slop is a rare example of a big budget movie released to theaters in an unreleasable state, Cats being another infamous example. Everything is wrong with this movie. Marvel have become notorious for their assy, unfinished slop CGI. Brave New Slop is the worst a Marvel movie has ever looked. The pointless fight between Sam Wilson and Red Hulk is disgusting to behold. There's a conversation between Sam Wilson and Dr. Broccoli that was clearly filmed in a green screen room. Doc Brock materializes out of nowhere to give a hackneyed villain speech that amounts to, "Ah ha 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 ha! I'm evil, and no one can stop my evil plans. You're too late, Mr. Bond, I mean Captain Capeshit. Soon the President will turn into the worst CGI monstrosity that Marvel has shorted out since She-Hulk. And there's nothing you can do to stop it. Ah ha ha!" Doc Brock's plan is to take revenge against President Harrison Ford because President Ford forced Doc Brock to be his presidential campaign manager. Doc Brock takes revenge by drip-feeding President Ford Red Hulk potion over an extended period of time that will eventually result into him turning into a CGI monstrosity. Why does Doc Brock not just kill him? And what is the point of turning him into Red Hulk? All he's going to do is trash a few city blocks, kill a few dozen people, then pass out. Would it not make more sense for Doc Brock to create his own Red Hulk mind slave that he can control? Oh, Marvel humor, by the way.
Since when were they red?
Astoundingly, Doc Brock isn't the most ridiculous part of Brave New Slop because the movie features an ass-kicking midget Girlboss. In one scene, midget Girlboss girlbosses down a darkly lit corridor, wiping out a squad of stuntmen who are throwing themselves around in a truly heroic but futile attempt to make Girlboss Midget appear a genuine threat. You know that the stuntmen, the fight choreographers, basically everyone on set when this was filmed were all thinking the same thing. This looks fucking ridiculous. But none of them could say it out loud because they all have to be in lockstep obedience to the cause. Because Disney. Girlboss Midget is so obviously not intimidating that the movie has to tell the viewer to find her intimidating.
She's ex-widow.
That basically means stay the hell out of her way, trust me.
Which was about as convincing as Chris Hemsworth pretending to like Brie Larson.
I like this one.
That man should have gotten an Oscar just for not vomiting after he spoke that line.
Is there any competition between the different sects, the different groups?
There's no competition for me because I'm the strongest, so it's just kind of like a different...
Well, you should let her think that, but... Yeah.
It's not. As I've said before, it's not. It's just a fact. It's not a personal opinion.
No,
and it's not a reflection...
I know we don't talk about Brie Larson now because she's not a thing anymore, but that woman was totally deluded. She genuinely thought she was going to be massive.
It's not a crazy concept to me that women can lead giant franchises and make money for corporations. It's fine, you know what I mean? It's like, we can do that too.
Giancarlo Esposito is in Brave New Slop for a while. I can't remember if he's a hired assassin or if he is personally invested in killing Sam Wilson. But yeah, he's in the movie until he's not. Marvel movies need a comic relief character because Marvel humor. So Sam Wilson teams up with Capeshit Boy, whose entire personality is quirky and self-deprecating.
Well, it's a long-ass drive to West Virginia, so we're gonna need some snacks.
Why did I invite you?
What? Wait.
There's an old depressed black guy who was originally intended as a white guilt pornographer.
They will never let a black man be Captain America. And even if they did, no self-respecting black man would ever want to be.
But white guilt porn and hating America isn't cool anymore, so Disney reshot the movie, and now old depressed black guy is just there. Every action sequence in the movie is a rehash of action slop you've seen a billion times. The climax of Brave New Slop is Sam Wilson telling the Hulk, "You need to do better, Senator," so the Hulk does better, Senator. The Red Hulk, who is supposed to be the ultimate incarnation of the Hulk, fails to defeat Sam Wilson in a fight. He doesn't even so much as injure Sam Wilson, and he's defeated by being told to take a nap. Appropriately for one of the worst Marvel movies, Brave New Slop gives the audience a very unwelcome reminder that the Eternals happened. The Marvel fandom was quite happy to pretend that movie never happened, but Brave New Slop had to go and pull it out of the memory hole. I can't remember the plot of Brave New Slop. The movie combines several plots and half plots from the 4 or 5 versions of the film that were shot. One involves a government conspiracy, one centers around Doc Brock's evil plans, another involves Giancarlo Esposito, another is about Japan and the US almost going to war over resources. There's a subplot involving midget Girlboss unraveling a conspiracy, and another involving President Ford's estranged daughter, both of which are forgotten about over the course of the movie. Brave New Slop is a hideous Frankenstein's monster of dated movie tropes and plots copied and pasted from other movies. The result is an incomprehensible ruin that doesn't even function properly as a movie. Brave New Slop is either the worst or second worst Marvel movie, a 2-hour-long tidal wave of boredom. Captain America Brave New Slop was so bad that the Marvel shieldom used the next Marvel slop, Thunderbolts, as a coping mechanism to pretend that Marvel is still relevant by asserting that Thunderbolts is an allegorical masterpiece because Matrauma. Thunderbolts also features that scene from Brave New Slop in which a tiny girlbosses down a dark corridor, wiping out a squad of bad guys, but it's amazing this time because Matrauma. The official budget that Disney reported for Brave New Slop was $180 million. This is a lie. That was probably the cost of the reshoot, but the entire production from start to finish is estimated to have cost around $300 million. Toss another $100 million on top of that for marketing, and Disney sank at least $400 million into this cinematic cacotomon. The movie made $415 million at the box office, equating to a $200 million plus loss for Disney. The brand damage the movie caused to Marvel was enormous. The 2 Marvel movies that followed Brave New Slop, Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, both flopped, and the response to Marvel's announcement video for Avengers Doomsday was more muted than my theatre's reaction to the cum kiss in Queer. 2025 is the year the superhero genre died. The superhero era ended definitively in 2023 with a series of major box office bombs, and 2025 confirmed that the genre will not be making a comeback. There were 4 major superhero movie releases this year, all flopped. Most of the movies I have mentioned in this video may not be the worst movie of the year, but they are the most something. War of the Worlds is the most intellectually stimulating. Mission Impossible 8 is the most disappointing. G20 is the most Girlboss. Nobody 2 is the most movie. Queer is the second most gay. Predator Badlands is the most gay. Mickey 17 is the most pretentious. Star Trek Section 31 is the ugliest. Captain Capeshit Brave New Slop is the most incomprehensible. This next movie, the second worst of the year, is the most vile. Elio. I'm getting straight to the point on this one. I think Elio is an allegory for No, I am not kidding. This movie celebrates noncery. Here is a quote from a Fiction Horizon article published July 2025. Sources who spoke with The Hollywood Reporter revealed that Elio was originally a queer-coded character. This was tied closely to the film's first director, Adrian Molina, who is openly gay, but over time the character was changed to be more traditionally masculine, and much of the queer representation was quietly removed. Early footage from about 2 years ago showed scenes that fans and even Pixar employees loved. One memorable moment was Elio making clothes out of trash, what the team jokingly called his trashin' show, which included a pink tank top. There was also a scene suggesting Elio had a crush on a boy, hinted at through pictures in his bedroom, but these moments didn't make it into the final cut. End quote. The character Elio is 11 years old, but looks more like a 9-year-old. In any case, he's clearly pre-adolescent. The plot of the movie is that Elio suddenly becomes obsessed with aliens. He tells his auntie about his budding feelings of attraction to alien lore, but his auntie rejects this new identity. Elio's infatuation with aliens leads to his attempt to get abducted by aliens. He wants to be abducted. One might even say that Elio is a body that wants to be abducted by aliens. So Elio draws a giant sign on the beach that says, "Come hither and take me, boys." I mean aliens. So the aliens come and abduct Elio. After entering the world of aliens, Elio's new best friend is a big, floppy, purple alien with a bell-end shaped head. I'm guessing this is a metaphor for eggplants. Despite his initial fear of the eggplant in this new world, Elio very quickly learns to love the eggplant. There's even a scene where Elio goes inside the eggplant. By the way, if you have just vomited up your last meal, don't blame me, blame Disney. Elio helps the eggplant embrace his budding identity as a pacifist, but Eggplant's father is not happy about this.
I will not sit back and watch my only son become a cocksucker. Jesus, what is it with you? I'd rather you were dead than be a fucking
pacifist.
But through various plot contrivances, Elio helps the bigoted father come to terms with his son's pacifism. Then Elio brings peace to the alien realm and returns home to his auntie, who is almost certainly a lesbian, where his auntie finally accepts his identity as an alien lover. Most of the few hundred people who saw Elio had absolutely no idea what the movie was trying to say, because without knowledge of the queer framing to draw from in interpreting the movie, it does just come off as a bizarre sequence of non sequiturs. The reason most viewers didn't get that Elio is an allegorical tale of a criminal activity I can't mention on YouTube is twofold. One, it does not occur to most viewers that Pixar would make such a movie, because unlike Disney, most viewers are not steeped in a demonic ideology. And two, Disney got cold feet and pulled the plug on the initial hardcore concept, and went in a much more generic direction in which the initial intention of the movie was masked by generic themes of family bonding. The Disney higher-ups had a "what the fuck were we thinking?" moment when they saw the early rough cuts of the movie that Adrian Molina had been working on for 2 years. They immediately shit-canned Molina, making him co-director of credits font on Coco 2 because it was cheaper than buying out his contract. Disney then brought in a couple of box tickers to tone down Elio's themes and turn the movie into something that could be released to the public. The characters in Elio look like the attendees of a DEI workshop. There's only one white male character in Elio, a fat, bumbling, emotionally incontinent computer geek. Elio's animation is absolutely disgusting. It's everything wrong with modern Pixar animation, and the worst aspect of it, bean mouth animation. Everyone has a bean mouth. Corners, geometry, right angles, none of that exists. Everything is boring and rounded and safe and inoffensive, and everyone has a bean mouth. Pixar was widely mocked online because Elio and Turning Red and Luca all look like a Grubhub commercial from 2020. In almost every single frame of Elio, the action happens right in the middle of the frame, which breaks the rule of thirds. I learned about this from a film threat video before I saw Elio, and once I saw this problem, I could not unsee it. It is in every scene, every frame. There are no sweeping landscape shots, no alternating angles or perspective shifts, or any visual variety. The animators have no concept of visual variety, even for a motive as simple as the avoidance of visual monotony. From start to finish, the animating in Elio is atrocious. To demonstrate how unrelenting this hideous style of animation is, I recorded a clip of myself clicking through the movie at random. So this is what I'm talking about. You see Elio's mom here, right in the middle of the frame. Completely bland background, nothing on either side. Let's just go here. There you go. Elio right in the middle of the frame. Let's go over here. Elio slightly to the left, but again, basically just the middle of the frame and a completely bland, empty background. Again, mom is right in the middle of the frame, bland background. Right in the middle of the frame, bland background. There he is. There's Elio and his eggplant right in the middle of the frame. Bland background, very blurry. There's the hand right in the middle of the frame. It's a hideous, ugly close-up. There you go. There's the characters all centered around the middle of the frame with pretty much just this bland, hideous, bright lights background. Again, middle. You can go through the entire movie. You're not going to find a frame that doesn't contain the object of visual focus not centered. Just every single frame. It's unrelenting. Look at this. Look at this. What director could look at this and think that is acceptable? I mean, that is just a horrible, horrible image. I mean, look at that. It's just a hideous piece of art in its own right, that frame. And this is the entire movie. It's just gross. It's a gross, horrible, hideous movie from start to finish. Every single frame. I think I've made my point. Absolutely disgustingly ugly movie. Horribly animated. Everybody's got a bean head. It's horrible to look at. The botched animation is the result of former head of Disney Animation, Jennifer Lee, initiating a purge of old white guy animators who she regarded as male, pale, and stale, and replacing them with female animators recruited from Tumblr. By the way, this was all confirmed by insider leaks. Film Threat did an excellent expose of Disney's DEI purge in a series called The D-Files. As well as her contribution to Elio, Jennifer Lee was also the executive producer behind Strange World and Wish.
Upstar!
Watch out, world, here I are!
Just see the mushrooms and you'll understand.
She stepped down as head of Disney Animation in 2024. Disney would have been better off scrapping the entire Elio project, but sunk cost fallacy and all that, Disney tried to brute force the movie to commercial success with a $100 million marketing campaign, which brought total costs on Elio to around $300 million. Elio made a pathetic $154 million at the box office, making it the 25th highest grossing Pixar movie of all time, 2 spots higher than the 2012 3D re-release of Finding Nemo. If you want to know more about the 3D cinema scourge, watch my Dread video. If you saw the thumbnail to this video, then you know the Despot's pick for the worst movie of 2025, but that doesn't mean we can't have a little theatre. Karen iPhone.
What's worse than being caught cheating on your wife at a Coldplay concert? Coldplay's last album.
Yes, great, Karen iPhone. Get on with the intro.
What mistake did the CEO make at the Coldplay concert? He didn't play it cool.
Karen iPhone, would you for fuck's sake just hit the drum?
Snow White, fairest one of all.
No. Snow White and the 7 CGI Abominations. A movie critic trying to find problems in Snow White and the 7 CGI Abominations is like a fish trying to find water in the ocean. A major theme that runs throughout SW7CA is femininity being subsumed by feminism. Rachel Zegler can't even do her fucking job and clean up without engaging in passive-aggressive posturing to show how contemptuous she is that she has to do a day's work, scowling into the camera and complaining about how she's too good for this kind of menial labour. She should be ruling the kingdom, and the cleaning up should be left to, I don't know, migrants or slaves or whatever, people that don't matter. It doesn't take the movie 1 minute to explain that communism is awesome, actually.
The bounty of the land belonged to all who tended it.
No. If I own a farm and I hire you to work on my farm, you are tending that land. But you do not own the bounty of that land. I own that bounty because it's my land. And I'm the one who is carrying all the financial risk because I spent $500,000 on a combine harvester. You get the hourly wage you agreed to work for and carry 0 risk. Even if I fail, you still get paid. Don't like it? Buy your own fucking farm, but don't assert ownership to my land and a claim to the rewards of my risk. Naturally, the story is set in the kingdom of downtown LA, which was also the setting for Damsel, The Witcher, Rings of Power, The Sandman, The Wheel of Time, and Shadow and Bone. The first song is one of those wretched Disney original Broadway knockoffs. It's awful. Gal Gadot shows up to confirm that the meme was right all along.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all?
You serious?
Gal Gadot is the only part of this movie I enjoy for 3 reasons. 1, she's hot. 2, she looks like a dominatrix. And 3, her acting is so bad that it's actually entertaining to watch.
What did you say? She turned the farmers into soldiers loyal only to her.
No, see, this is where the world building falls apart. Mao tried this in The Great Leap Forward. He conscripted all the farmers as labourers and forced them to waste time forging worthless pig iron. This led to the worst man-made famine in history, in which more than 50 million Chinese died. But fuck all that, because communism is awesome, actually. After Snow White runs off into the woods and crashes at the dwarves' cottage, the viewer is first subjected to the sight sight of the abominations. I'll skip all the colourful adjectives and get straight to the point. These are either the worst or second worst CGI creations of all time. The only CGI that can rival SW7CA's abominations for sheer uncanny valley nightmare visuals is Cats. While I was watching Snow White and the Seven CGI abominations in the cinema, I started laughing out loud during the opening dwarves sequence because these things are so visually abominable that it's almost hard to believe this is real. But it is real. Disney spent $300 million to make this happen. I personally find Dopey to be the most horrifying. Hi-Ho has been Broadwayified to make it unlistenable and now features the following lyrics. The highest high I know is when we dig up rocks this big and so my smile starts to grow, I glow. Oh, and Dopey has also been updated for a modern audience. He is no longer a comic figure because you're not allowed to laugh anymore. A fact this Karen of a movie makes sure to remind you of.
Just because his name is Dopey doesn't mean he's actually a dope.
In the real movie, Dopey was full of life and energy, a good lad who knew how to have a good time. In this, he's a lifeless squib who mopes around in a cloud of self-pity. He's a boring, strangely serious introvert who eventually comes out of his shell in what is supposed to be an inspiring moment. Disney not only purged dwarf actors from this production as part of their update for a modern audience, they got rid of the only character with a mental disability and replaced him with a tedious, shy bitch. He's not Dopey anymore, he's Mopey. A slapstick sequence ends with a bowl of porridge falling on Mopey's head, and instead of laughing it off with the boys like any normal man with a half-decent sense of humour would, Mopey mopes off to sit and mope like a whingy wee sod. Rachel Zegler heads off to commiserate with him, and this is what I like to call a toilet break moment. A scene which is so obviously going to be boring as fuck that I get up to go take a piss because I know I won't be missing anything. Gal Gadot gets a solo number, and this is by far the best part of the movie. Not because of the song's shite. She turns her bad acting up to 11 with cringy facial expressions, ridiculous, clunky gestures, and she clearly doesn't care. She's decided that she's going to chew the scenery so viciously that it ends up looking like a random frame from Star Trek Section 31, and it's beautiful to behold. Also, she's hot. Women aren't allowed to do housework anymore because feminism, so Rachel Zegler tells the dwarves to clean their own shit up.
You clean those cobwebs. He'll use the broom.
Now, I know what you're thinking. The dwarves give Rachel Zegler room and board, indeed safe haven from her pursuers. In the actual Snow White movie, Snow White repaid the dwarves by cooking and cleaning, so what does this lazy Zegler bint do to earn her keep? Well, there's no right answer to that question because the question itself is incorrect. It's like this. A modern woman asserts that she deserves nothing less than a man who is at least 6 foot tall, earns at least 6 figures, has an 8-inch cock, a house, obviously, and not some shitty mortgage deal, a fully paid off house, 2 cars, and a 6-pack, and a high status career, and he has to be under 35. Now, if you respond with, okay, so you're asking for a top 1% guy. What do you bring to the relationship? She'll just stare at you in bewilderment, like you've got 3 heads. Like, what are you even talking about? She brings herself to the relationship? Duh! What else would she bring? The movie then explains that banditry is acceptable because late-stage capitalism.
Those rebels are nothing but thieves.
They're actually a band of erstwhile actors whose sustenance was made unstable by the Queen's greedy economic policies, which forced them into a liminal space where ethics and motives are ill-defined.
Shamelessly hammy political messaging masquerading as cute, quirky humour. The writers couldn't be bollocksed making an argument for their politics or fusing it subtly into the story because that would require effort, so they just pick the most upvoted Reddit comment that day and shove it into a random character's mouth. Karen iPhone, what do you think? I think the mass immigration currently being inflicted on Ireland constitutes nothing less than the cultural genocide, economic subjugation, and physical displacement of the Irish people. An excellent point, Karen iPhone. Well said. Disney wants to make it very clear that they won't be doing the outdated knight in shining armor trope. They subtly communicate this with the following line.
You must have mistaken me for a knight in shining armor.
In order to pad the runtime, Disney insert the 7 married men, women, non-binary individuals, and persons transitioning between gender identities. The bandit subplot is the worst part of the plot. The entire sequence from when Rachel Zegler runs into some guy to when Gal comes back is ball-achingly boring. The song Princess Problems is dreadful. The worst in the movie. The duet between Rachel Zegler and some guy is a tranquilizer in the key of D major. The bandits themselves are all one-note caricatures.
I am the Rebel Quig, master of the crossbow.
So a bunch of shit happens, then Gal poisons Rachel Zegler, she gets woken up by True Love's simp, then she girlbosses her way to the throne. Men aren't allowed to kill women anymore, so the dwarves can't chase the witch off a cliff as in the real movie. Instead, Gal smashes the mirror and is consumed by it, which was no doubt intended as a setup for a sequel in which it would be revealed that Gal is still alive within the mirror and is trying to manipulate those that come into contact with the mirror so she can escape it and return to power. The movie ends with one more wretched Disney Broadway number. Snow White and the 7 CGI Abominations is everything wrong with modern Hollywood movies. Desecration of a beloved old movie with a sneering update for a modern audience. Corporate feminism crushing the femininity out of the original character. Garbage new songs. Garbage versions of old songs, an insufferable lead actress who knows fuck all about anything, but who still presumes to lecture everyone within earshot, replacing fun with finger-wagging, naggy Karen lecturing.
Just because his name is Dopey doesn't mean he's actually a dope.
Far-left political messaging, hypocrisy. Communism is awesome, but also we spent $300 million on this piece of shit, so come spend $87 at the movie theater to watch it. Inclusion is so important here at Disney, but also fuck dwarf actors, they're not allowed to be in this movie. DEI casting. Bloat. Let's double the size of the cast by adding 7 married men, women, non-binary individuals, and persons transitioning between gender identities. A massively spiraling budget that doesn't show up on screen. Abominations cost $300 million, and the movie still manages to look like shit. Tacky costumes that look like they were ordered on Amazon and just came out of the packaging. Nightmare-inducing CGI. Excessive yellow filter. Junky green screen backdrops. Actors moving out of sync with the Abominations. Elementary school play level action, Girlboss taking command of her kingdom because she don't need no man, the script somehow contriving to have the queen defeat herself because men aren't allowed to defeat women anymore, no matter the circumstances. Snow White and the 7 CGI Abominations is the textbook example of a movie no one asked for and no one wanted, but which ended up in theaters anyway because Hollywood don't give a fuck what audiences want. They care about social engineering, which is why Hollywood is in a state of collapse. The reaction to Snow White and the 7 CGI Abominations was immediate and brutal. The movie was savaged. After Snow White tanked, you could see the shills retreat to the last lines of defense in real time. Disney invited paid shill Access Media critics to the premiere, gave them strict instructions to write up positive reviews, and when these positive reviews hit the internet, the Disney shilldom launched Operation Sorry Chuds, it turns out the movie is actually pretty good apparently. That lasted about 5 minutes, but then people who hadn't been bribed by Disney saw the movie, and well, to quote my own out-of-the-theater reaction, it's one of the worst movies Disney has ever made. This was a reaction that was broadly shared. Even The Guardian called SW7CA exhaustingly awful. After they had definitively lost the argument, the last few pro-Disney fanatics, still unable to give up on their lost cause, clasped their copium to their chests, staggered to the last pathetic little ditch when their defenses had been completely overrun, and croaked out, "It's just a kids movie, bro. Are you seriously criticizing a kids movie, bro?" As if children are undeserving of real entertainment. And in any case, SW7CA is not exclusively a kids movie. The movie is made in the model of all Disney live action abominations. Nostalgia slop aimed at a family market. Due to extensive reshoots, Disney spent between $400 and $500 million on production and marketing costs. The movie made $205 million at the box office, equating to an at least $300 million loss for Disney. The fallout from Abomination's failure was significant. Disney cancelled their remake of Tangled, and Rachel Zegler's career was dead overnight. Of the 4 movies Zegler had starred in prior to Abominations, 3 had flopped. Snow White was her make or break moment, and when it bombed, it took what was left of Zegler's career down with it. Disney threw Zegler under the bus. Leaks from one of the Abominations producers revealed that Zegler had been a migraine for Disney. They couldn't keep her off social media and couldn't keep her from running her mouth about politics. After the Snow White disaster, Zegler retreated to Broadway. She recently starred in a production of Evita, which flopped. Of the 13 movies I discussed in this video, 12 flopped. Some of them bombed so completely that they equated to a 90% plus loss on investment. Only Jurassic World Abortion made money. Audiences have signalled repeatedly to Hollywood that they don't want this shite anymore. No one asked for Snow White to be updated for a modern audience. No one begged Disney to turn Predator into feminized, gay, lame, Grogu-infested slop, or to make an animated allegory for a little boy's homosexual awakening. Audiences were sick of kitty cape shit bollocks 2 years ago, and they are exhausted by Girlboss slop. Star Trek fans were not clamouring for yet another Alex Kurtzman production, and who the fuck thought a gay porn movie that also features a travel vlog would be a $120 million hit, which is what Queer needed to break even. All that said, audiences did want an Ice Cube stars at a computer monitor version of War of the Worlds. Thank God we finally got that. I was beginning to fear it would never happen in my lifetime. The 13 movies examined in this video cost a combined total of $2,150 million. I want to finish this video with a personal anecdote. From the ages of 16 to 22, I played keyboard in a band called Gladiolus. For a while, we played a song I wrote called In the Valley, a whiny little teenage angst number that was so cringe I won't even tell you what it was about. We played the song at a handful of gigs and noticed that the energy level and engagement of the crowd dropped significantly while we were performing the song. One day, I walked into band practice and the singer turned to me and said, "Jared, we're dropping In the Valley. It's shite." I looked up from my keyboard, my 3 brothers in music waiting for my response. "Okay," I said, and we never played that song again. Please let me know the worst movies you saw in 2025 in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, check out my worst movies of 2024 video. Thanks for watching, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.